Hello everybody, my name's Nicola and welcome back to my channel. This is the Frugal Cottage where we talk all things money to help you on your financial journey. Today's video is slightly different as I wanted to talk about something that has been on my mind for quite a while now, and it's kind of a recurring theme throughout my Frugal Cottage journey, and so I wanted to kind of revisit it now that I am in a different place to when I talked about this last time. So today's video is about why I'm choosing to live a boring life. I'm talking in a way that society has the very conventional way to measure success, and actually there are lots of ways to measure what success means, but in most of society's eyes the way that I am choosing to live my life would be considered to be boring. And yet I am so far from that opinion of myself and of my own life and how it goes. I thought I'd talk to you about this in this video because I think that's an important thing to talk about, because I think that social media plays such a big part in all of our lives now, and it can create such a false narrative as to what actual success means, and the idea behind the boring concept of if you're not doing all these things in your life must be really boring and you're not doing what's expected. But actually it's so far from this, and this stems from, I have a blog post on my blog called "The Deprivation is Not Part of the Journey," and the whole premise of the blog goes on about, it was aimed at early retirement, but the idea is the same, that just because I am choosing to do things in a different way doesn't mean that I'm depriving myself, my children of anything. It just might look slightly different to the norm, and so I feel like sometimes it gets lost in the translation of, oh well, why do you use the word frugal? Does that mean that you're cheap or you have no money? No, not really. I think that the boring aspect of this is all about actually making intentional choices for your lifestyle. It's intentional choices about where you want your life to go, and so the word frugal was a very intentional choice of the word The Frugal Cottage for my entire brand name, because I want my money to work for me. I work really hard for that, and frugal, it for me in my mind is not being cheap, it's being mindful about where that money goes. And when I look at where my money does go, and the fact that social media, when I find myself on social media a lot, I begin to question my own choices in terms of why my life looks the way it does and why I've chosen these choices. And social media can create such a false view of someone's world, and if you spend enough time on social media it makes you doubt the fact that what you have is enough, and what you are doing is enough, and what you are kind of giving back is enough. And I would be the first person to admit that when I spend a lot of time on social media I begin to think that my house isn't enough, it isn't big enough, there isn't enough to it, I haven't got enough things, I don't have lots of beautiful items, I haven't spent a lot of money on things. And actually at the end of the day that those things don't matter, and so I'm choosing, I guess intentionally choosing, to not buy those things because I want to create memories instead, and I want to have all those experiences with my children that they deserve, but it would be considered boring to most people. I am so happy being at home, reading a book, doing a jigsaw puzzle, baking things, I play the piano. I'm so happy doing all those things, but from the outside looking in it doesn't look like I'm doing very much, and therefore my life is boring. I'm quite happy for that to seem the case, because I don't want to spend money to make my life look exciting to other people, because I don't want to end up in debt for something that I don't need or don't particularly want at the end of the day, just so that other people think that I'm successful. Because success is such a construct of, well, you must have a big house, a fancy car, you must go on all these like fancy holidays and have all these amazing things. Why? Why does that matter at the end of the day? Because the house that I live in is warm, is safe, is cosy, it protects us, it keeps us warm, we've got lots of memories here already. Doesn't that do the same as a really big house with lots of rooms and multiple bathrooms and all of that? Is it not the same? But on social media, my house would be considered boring because it isn't fancy. And sitting at home and watching TV and kind of sitting there with a cup of tea and having my cat snooze on my knee, I wouldn't want anything more. And yet to the outside, oh, she's at home again. Well, yes, my cat's about to join me. The thing is that I am choosing this intentionally because I want to live a life that makes me happy. And actually at the end of the day, all of these things, these material possessions, this makes me happy. Can you hear him purring? All of this makes me happy. And I'm choosing that on purpose. I live in the most wonderful part of the world. I live in the northeast of England, and I can get to a beach. I can watch the waves crash on the sand. I can watch the sunset. I can watch the sunset go down as it goes down behind the sea. And there is something quite nice about choosing the boring life of that in terms of contentness. Because some things you can't buy. And isn't it a privilege to be able to sit there and watch the waves come in and the sun go down, and appreciating the little things, because sometimes the little things are actually the big things. So I'm sat here now filming this and I'm stroking my cat, who has been incredibly clingy since my other cat died. But what a privilege it is to be able to have a pet and stroke him and make him hopefully happy. He sounds quite happy. And my day-to-day life, again, might seem quite boring to most people. I do the same thing. I go to work, I come home, I get my boys, I make tea. I then do the bedtime routine. But I listen to their little stories about what they've done today with their friends, what's made them laugh, who's been silly, who's not been silly, or how many football goals they've scored at break time. And I sit there and actually, that's not a boring life. That's a life that you can be proud of. And then the bedtime routine and reading stories and listening to them read to me, and then going and getting up the next day and doing it all again. Yes, it might seem quite boring, but I'm intentionally choosing that because actually there's nothing wrong with life being boring. And sometimes I say to my children, you know, sometimes life isn't very exciting, but that's okay, because it means, do you know what it means? It means there's no drama. There's nothing happening that should be worrying you. There's nothing else going on, and isn't that a privilege? And sometimes I worry, and again, this is a very much I've been spending too much time on social media. I worry that I don't give them enough. But then on a weekend we can drive to the seaside and they can go in the sea, in their wellies at the moment because it's too cold. And then we can get hot chocolate at a little cafe there. And they're the things that they'll remember. They won't remember the things I bought them particularly, but they'll remember how it felt, and they'll remember the good times, and they'll remember running away from the sea so it doesn't get them because it's coming too quickly, or they chase the waves because they're trying to get in there before it goes back out again, or they meet a dog on the sand who's got a ball and they throw it for them, or they pick up stones to try and skim them across the water. That's what they'll remember. How can that possibly be boring? But it comes down to intentional choices and intentional mindset. And yes, I could take them somewhere that costs a lot of money to go into. And yes, we do that sometimes. They also get so much joy from going on a walk and throwing sticks in the river and seeing then if they can hit the stick with another stick. We spent ages the other day doing that. And seeing how many things they can count on the way, how many birds they see. Even when we're on a car journey, how many yellow cars can they spot? Because yellow cars are apparently a thing. We don't see very many. But in my mind that isn't boring. And I could do so much more. But I feel like actually that wouldn't give me as much joy and as much contentedness. And isn't that what life is all about? So when I sat down to film this video, I keep worrying about the fact that my life isn't enough. Even now when I'm filming, I'm worried about the fact that the backdrop of this, because I'm sat in my living room, is boring. Because there's just the light behind me. And that's it. Because you purposely can't see the pictures on the walls. Isn't life strange like that? I've been very reflective lately about where I want my life to go in the next 5 years and 10 years. Bearing in mind in 10 years my children will be almost grown. And then it seems so important to actually focus on the little things, because at the end of the day, the little things are the big things. So that's why I'm choosing to have a boring life. And there's nothing that makes me happier than sitting on the sofa with a cup of tea and reading a book or watching a film. Isn't that a privilege to be able to do that and have peace? Because it is an absolute privilege, and I'm lucky that I live in part of the world where that is something that you can do, that I don't have to worry about my house being bombed or something happening outside, because I live in a part of the world where thankfully that doesn't happen. Isn't it a privilege just to sit and enjoy a little chatter from your children because they've had a good day at school and they want to tell you about all the fun things they've done, and they might have got a sticker for something that they need to tell you about? That isn't boring, is it? So that's why I'm choosing this. And as per usual, thank you for watching. I do appreciate every single like, every single view, every single comment, and I'll be back to share another video with you soon.